Elizabeth Warren is continuing, as often as President Obama calls her out, she calls him out. And I'm finding this fascinating, this internecine warfare, this kind of almost interfamilial warfare between Elizabeth Warren and President Obama. He said, "Oh, she's just a politician." Like, really? And so she has replied, saying, with this, along with Rosa DeLauro, for a piece in the Boston Globe, and the headline, "Who is writing the TPP?" And she says this is being sold as a free trade deal, but only 5 of the treaty's 29 draft chapters reportedly deal with traditional trade issues. While reducing traditional barriers to trade with countries like Japan will facilitate some international commerce, the TPP is about more than reducing tariffs. She said, "Who is writing the TPP? The text has been classified and the public isn't permitted to see it, but 28 trade advisory committees have been intimately involved in the negotiation. Of the 566 committee members, 480 of them, 85%, are senior corporate executives or representatives from industry lobbying groups. Many of the advisory committees are made up entirely of industry representatives. A rigged process," Elizabeth Warren writes in the Boston Globe, "leads to a rigged outcome. These panels," she's talking about the investor-state dispute settlement panels, "these panels can force taxpayers to write huge checks to big corporations with no appeals. Workers, environmentalists, and human rights advocates, by the way, don't get that special right. So workers can't sue governments, can't sue taxpayers. So the essentially slave labor in Vietnam or Brunei or wherever it may be, they can't sue us. The people who live in Vietnam or Brunei or wherever it may be, whose areas are being polluted and destroyed by big industry that's moving in, operating to a different set of health and safety standards and environmental standards than are required here in the United States. They can't sue us for their country being destroyed, for their homes being made poisonous, for their children having birth defects, for their own cancer. They can't sue us. The people living there, and the workers. Nobody basically can sue us except the corporations, and the only thing they can sue us for is lost profits." This is me talking now, not Elizabeth Warren. But back to Elizabeth Warren. See, they can sue us for, no, this is me again. They can sue us for lost profits based on our passing, or any of these countries, any of these 12 countries, passing laws that, quote, restrain or restrict trade. Now, typically we refer to laws that restrain or restrict trade as regulations, right? You may not sell poisonous things. You must sell things that meet certain minimum standards. Your food must not kill people. Your drugs must actually be effective. But as Elizabeth Warren writes in today's Boston Globe, most Americans don't think of the minimum wage or anti-smoking regulations as trade barriers, right? So we've got a minimum wage law in the United States. And, Egypt raised their minimum wage, and a foreign corporation sued them under one of the trade deals that they were part of. Under this so-called international settlement dispute system. Philip Morris is suing right now Australia and Uruguay. This has to do with the WTO. Why? Because both those countries have packaging rules that say you can't put brand names on your outside of your cigarettes. I mean, you can put the brand name, but you can't put the logos, you can't put the fancy graphics, and you got to put pictures of people, being killed off by tobacco. And so they're suing the countries. Philip Morris is suing the countries, saying you're causing us to lose profits. Food safety rules are included in this. We have some pretty stringent food safety rules here in the United States. Vietnam doesn't. We sign this deal, we all go to the lowest common denominator? Well, we don't know for sure because the administration will not release the text of the TPP for us to examine. They just want Congress to say yes or no, and then they can read it, apparently. Doctors Without Borders has come out and said the TPP is a threat to global health. Stephen Vernon No, I'm sorry. This was, no, Dean Marshbein, president of Doctors Without Borders USA, wrote this. And he says, lost in the political discussions over the passage of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, a trade agreement currently being negotiated in secret between the U.S. and 11 other Pacific Rim nations, and I would add, hundreds of corporations, is the very real negative impact it could have on global health. Lost in the discussion is the real impact. Doctors Without Borders, they're actually based in France. The name is Médecins Sans Frontières. Works in over 60 countries, and our medical teams rely on access to affordable medicine and vaccine. We are deeply concerned that the TPP in its current form will lock in unsustainable drug prices, block or delay the availability of affordable generic medicines, and price millions of people out of much-needed health care. So now, particularly given that there's a vote today, now might be a really good time to call your members of Congress and say, this TPP thing, I'm not all down with this.